Okay, this is chapter 10, part 2 review. This is on 10.4, and that's equations of radicals. And 10.5, Pythagorean theorem. Okay, that's what this whole second half of the chapter is about. Number 1, it says a right triangle has one leg. So if I see triangle, I'm going to draw it and say it was a right one. It says one leg is 7 and the hypotenuse is 25. Find the length of the other leg. So 7 squared plus x squared equals 25 squared. 49 plus x squared equals 625. I subtract 49 from both sides to get x by itself. Now notice the answers are in radical form, so I don't want a decimal if I should get one. So if I take the square root, oops. Oh, it's nice and pretty, 24. The answer is C. A right triangle, so we're going to draw one again, has one leg that is 8 inches and the hypotenuse is 17. Find the length of the other leg. A squared plus b squared equals c squared. 64 plus x squared equals 289. When I subtract 64 from 289, I get 225. Is that going to be a perfect square? It is. X is going to be 15. I take the square root to free x. These are going to cancel each other out. Take the square root, I get 15. So my answer is A. What is the length of the diagonal of a rectangle? So here we have a rectangle, and there's a diagonal. So that is the hypotenuse of a triangle. It says the length of the rectangle is 14, and the width is 7. So what's the hypotenuse? So 7 squared plus 14 squared equals c squared. So 49 plus 196 equals c squared. When I simplify the 49 and the 196, I get 245. Take the square root of both sides, and you get a decimal. So we don't like that. Oh, well, the answer does have that. If you're measuring, okay, so that's a good thing to bring up. If you're measuring, we want to round it, okay? We want to round it. If you're just simplifying, you don't want to round it. Number 4, a 16-foot ladder leans against a wall. So here's a wall, and then we have a 16-foot ladder that's leaning against it. It says the base of the ladder is 6 feet from where the wall meets the ground. How far up the wall does the ladder reach? So 36 equals 256. We subtract 36 from both sides. We get 220. We take the square root of 220. You get about 14.8, which is A. They want to know how far up. And we're talking about feet here, so we're rounding. The next page, number 5, it says determine which sides form a right triangle. So here, does 4 squared plus 7 squared equal 8 squared? Is that true? So we know 4 squared is 16. We know 7 squared is 49. Does that equal 64? 16 plus 49 equals 65. So 65 does not equal 64. So this is not a right triangle. Let's try 9 squared. 9 squared plus 12 squared, does that equal 15 squared? So 9 squared is 81. 12 squared is 144. And 15 squared is 225. Does 81 plus 144 give you 225? It does. So our answer is B. You want to really make sure you do it for C and D to make sure those do not. And that B is your real answer. Number 16, solve for the missing side. A squared plus B squared equals C squared. So 7 squared plus A squared equals 25 squared. 49 plus A squared equals, why did I draw it like that? Sorry, 25 squared. So 25 squared is 625. We subtract the 49 on both sides and get 576. It says round to the nearest hundredth, so that's okay if we make it a decimal. So we're going to take the square root in the calculator, and we get 24. So we're okay here. 24. All right. Hypotenuse is always across from the 90-degree angle, so we know that's our C. So A squared plus B squared equals C squared. A squared plus the square root of 3 squared equals the square root of 35 squared. Here, if I square root 3 and then square it, those will cancel each other out and I'll just get a 3. If that doesn't make sense, you can use your calculator and say, okay, square root of 3, get out of there, and then I'm going to square it. Yeah, it just gives you 3. And it's going to do the same thing to the 35. So A squared, when you subtract a 3, is going to be 32. A equals the square root of 32. But it wants you to find it to the nearest hundredth, so second second square root of 32. Okay, so nearest hundredth would be here, tens, hundredths, thousands. So 6 is greater than 5, so we're going to make it 5.92. And the squiggly line means an approximation, okay? A television. Larry is buying an entertainment stand for his television. The diagonal of the TV is 42 inches. The space for the television measures 30 by 36 inches. Well, Larry's television fit. So if this is a 30 by 36, what would C be? Well, 30 squared plus 36 squared equals 6 squared, or C squared. 30 squared is 900. 36 squared is 1296. We're going to add that to 900 to get 2196. C then would be about 46.86. Yes, this diagonal is much bigger, therefore this size, it would fit. It would fit, yes. All right. Solve for x. Substitute your solution back in to see if it works. So I remove 2 from both sides, and I get the square root of 5x equals 10. I got to get rid of this radical to get x by itself. So I square both sides, and I get 5x equals 100. I still have to get x alone, so I divide by 5, and x is 20. Here, I'm going to square both sides, and k plus 7 equals, this is going to be 9, and this is going to be 2, which is 18. But if you're like, okay, I wouldn't have gotten squaring 3 and then squaring a square root, put it in your calculator like this. 3 square root of 2, get out of there, close it, and then square it. Gives you 18. Subtract 7 from both sides. K equals 11. It says, put it back in to see if it works. So substitute your solution. So put it back in. Does the square root of 5 times 20 plus 2 equal 12? Does the square root of 100 plus 2 equal 12? Does 10 plus 2 equal 12? Does 12 equal 12? Yes. If I put 11 back in, does the square root of 11 plus 7 equal 3 root 2? Does the square root of 18 equal 3 root 2? If I break down 18, it's 9 times 2, which is 3 root 2. Does that equal 3 root 2? Yes. Okay. Last page. It says Wyatt and Dario are determining whether 36, 77, and 85 form a Pythagorean triple. Is either of them correct? Explain your reasoning. So Wyatt and Dario, the only difference they have is where the 85 I'm seeing and the 77 is. Or don't look at theirs and just say, okay, A, B, C. Does 36 squared plus 77 squared equal 85 squared? And we know 36 squared will be 1296. 77 squared is 5929. And 85 squared is 7725. When I add them together, I get 772. Wait, 7225. And that is equal to 7225. So this works. So here it says no. The order's different, so not Dario. Here the order's correct. Here the numbers are correct. Yes. So Wyatt is correct. Dario, wrong order of B and C, of the leg and the hypotenuse. Number 14 says solve for the missing side and leave as a simplified square root. So they don't want you to round. So 11 squared plus a squared is going to equal 23 squared. 11 squared is 121. 23 squared is 529. When you subtract 121, it's 408. A squared equals 408. Take the square root of both sides. A equals the square root of 408. When I break down 408, it's not going to be pretty, I don't think. No, it's a decimal. So you say to yourself, what does 408 break up into? Maybe it can be divided by 4. And it can, 4 and 102. Can 102 be broken up? Yes, 2 and 51. Can 51 be broken up? Yes, 3 and 17. So 408 is the same thing as the square root of 4 times 2 times 3 times 17. You can take this out. It's going to be 2 root 2 times 3 times 17. These cannot get broken down anymore. So it's going to be 2 root 6 times 17. And that's it. Okay. Now that's the side of this triangle, 2 root 102. It asks then to find the area of the triangle using that simplified square root. Now round answers to the nearest hundredth. So the area is the length, which is 2 root 01, or 2, times the width, which is 11. Area equals 2 root 102 times 11. So this is to the nearest hundredth. It's about 222.19 units squared. I don't know if it's centimeters or what. And then lastly, we have a bonus here. To get rid of a square root, we need to square both sides. So this is one of the more challenging equations. When you square a quantity, it's that quantity times itself. When you go ahead and FOIL first, outer, inner, last. And then you combine like terms and get m squared minus 2m plus 1. I'm going to bring everything over to the other side. So let me rewrite this. Subtract m, negative 3 equals m squared minus 3m plus 1. Add 3 to both sides. 0 equals m squared minus 3m plus 4. Now I have to factor in order to solve. I'm going to get m minus 4m plus 1, because factors of 4 that add up to -3. Then you're going to set each piece equal to 0, and you're going to get m equals 4, and m equals -1. When you plug them back in, though, the 4 will work, the -1 will not. So this is your answer. Okay, and that is your review.